Okay, I want to talk about karma. People, if you're in the esoteric world, people talk about karma trapping, being trapped in a wheel of karma in third density. That if you don't dissolve all of your karma, you can't move past third density. And they speak of it like it's a trap, or like we're trapped in third density until we escape the wheel of karma or something. But I want to talk about the origin of that. Why would that be? We are one. God is all there is. This decision came from somewhere. If there's some kind of a natural wall where if our vibration doesn't reach a point past karma to get through that wall, who put the wall there? The the point I'm trying to make is karma is not a trap. We're not trapped in third density because of karma. It's a choice. We're multidimensional beings. That means we've got our third density being experiencing this life right here, right now. This is the part, you know, that you're listening to. And then we talk about our higher selves. Well, in sixth density, you have a version of you helping yourself out, your higher self. Um, Angelic beings, whatever you want to call it. At some level, at some density, I'm assuming sixth density, you understand the process enough to put that block in your way, not to trap you in third density, but so that you will continue by choice to reincarnate into third density until you've used up its usefulness, until you understand the sacrificial nature of third density. And what I mean by the sacrificial nature of density, or of third density, um, in Conversations with God, he talks about a candle in the sun. If you're a candle in the sun, you can't know yourself as light if all there is light. You have to surround yourself in darkness to see the light. Okay, so this is where polarity comes in. Um, God knows God's self as God, but God wants to experience God as God. And there can't be a white knight without the villain. So this is where polarity comes in. And polarity exists all the way through the end of fifth density, possibly the beginning of sixth. And that gives us more choices, more paths to experience. You can experience love of God through love of self, or you could experience love of God through love of other self. Positive, negative, whatever you want to call it. But understanding the sacrificial nature of third density, that point where you dissolve your karma, what that means is I was talking to a friend about it today, and I have a lot of people ask me why the suffering. Why would all of these horrible things that a lot of people don't know about, but why would all of these horrible things be allowed to happen to children? Why would they be allowed to be tortured and all this stuff? And if you're still stuck in this mindset of polarity, then it's hard to understand. But if you bring yourself beyond the idea of third density, it becomes a little more able or easy to understand. You go back to the idea of the candle in the sun. You have to surround yourself in darkness to experience yourself as light, if light is all that there is. And so, just like in a video game, you can't have a win without an obstacle. And so, some of us choose to incarnate as the obstacle or the villain. Some of us choose to incarnate as the victim. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to have a hard time with this, but at some level, those who have been through the worst things, at some level they chose to have those experiences. this is going to probably be hard for a lot of people to swallow, but this is the disillusion of the illusion. You If you think of infinity, like, everybody knows that we have a soul. Everybody accepts that. That's widely accepted. But thinking of ourselves as infinite beings is harder for some people to swallow. So if you're an infinite being, which we all are, our spirits are infinite. You can't kill them, you can't destroy them. They're eternal. You can read about it in the Bible. I mean, whatever your religious source, you find this information anywhere. We are infinite beings. So on an infinite scale, there is nothing else to do. We're infinite. We are gods. We understand that we're gods, but we want to experience everything. We want to experience our creations. We want to experience being the hero. And we want to experience being the villain. I mean, whatever path you choose, it's just a path of experience. And this is where forgiveness comes in. All these horrible things have happened, but without forgiveness, forgiveness is the beginning of understanding the disillusion of the illusion. Okay? Forgiveness comes when you understand the sacrificial nature of existence. Like I've said, you can't have a hero without a villain. You can't understand compassion without something to be compassionate about. And so, if you try to think of it from an eternal perspective, from an infinite perspective, if we're never going to die, if we live forever, incarnating repetitively and evolving in densities 1 through 8, and then absorbing into source, or whatever you believe. But if we're infinite, why wouldn't we choose to do these things? Now, people have a really, really hard time, and I get some people pretty upset when I make comments about these children choosing at some point from a spiritual plane to go through this torture and whatnot. But think about it like this. If I'm looking at it from a third density perspective, I might consider, if somebody told you that there was a class that they knew of, if you could take this class and it only took 2 hours, 2 hours out of your life, that's it. Takes 2 hours, and at the end of this 2-hour class, you will be able to perform any miracle you choose. You will be able to heal like Jesus, or you would be able to levitate like some of the monks. You choose the thing, whatever it was. If you could take a 2-hour course and at the end of that 2 hours be able to do any one of these miracles, or even all of them that you have heard about or choose or could possibly imagine, if during that 2-hour class you had to sit on a rock with a point on it, you had to be starving, freezing. If that was the most miserable 2 hours of your life, would you still do it? Would you do it? If you could gain access to your wildest dreams for that 2 hours of hell that you had to go through in that course? Who wouldn't? So looking at it from that perspective, if God chooses to experience compassion, why wouldn't God choose to be the victim? God wants to experience it all. We are here to experience it all. I've heard quotes, I believe, from the Bible saying, do all these things and bring it back to me, or whatever. That's what it's talking about. Every experience that we are having is feeding the source, so to speak. What quicker way to experience everything, every possibility, than to split yourself up, right? Uh, if if we are one, source is one, there's nobody to interact with. So source splits source up to have somebody to interact with. We come into third density and forget who we are so that it seems real. If I got $10 in my pocket and I'm not getting paid for a week, if I give that $10 away, that's a huge, huge act. To somebody with $100, $10, that's not going to be a big deal. But if you've only got $10 and you got a week to go, that's a pretty big deal. If we're infinite beings, and we know that we're infinite beings, and we understand that this experience is a flicker of an eye. I mean, it's a blink. It's nothing. 100 years in the scope of infinity is nothing. It's not even a fraction of a second. So, in that scope, why would anything be off limits, right? Why would you choose not to experience anything if it's a fraction of a second? So when the truth comes out about what's been going on on this planet, what people have gone through, what people have done, I want you to keep in mind the sacrificial nature of third density. It's good to feel the compassion. That's one of the things we're here for. Compassion is godliness. It's beautiful. It's an experience that we're here for. But don't let it tear you apart. Don't let it make you lose your mind. Take a further perspective and understand in the scope of infinity, it's not even a fraction of a second. And so when I say that these spirits chose to incarnate and go through the torture and these horrible things that has been done to some of these children, I'm not taking away from the compassion. I'm not taking away from how horrible these things have been. What I'm saying is, without those events, you can't experience the compassion. Let's put it this way. People ask me about the horrors that's going on. Again, that's what we're talking about here. Imagine you're in a grocery store. You got a pocket full of cash. There's a woman in front of you trying to buy a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. And she's got skin and bone kids sitting in the cart, and she's crying because she doesn't have enough to pay for it, and she needs to feed these kids. Think about the feeling that you get when you pay for that for her. That's a beautiful experience. It's a deep, beautiful experience. If those kids weren't starving, you wouldn't be able to have that experience. The beauty that you get from buying those groceries for that woman. So if you're wondering why you would incarnate into a world with so much hate, so much horrible evil, and all of these things going on, that's why. When you go to a higher density, say you're on a fourth density positive planet, and everybody has everything they need. There is no starvation. There's no torture. There's no people being oppressed. There's nobody to buy that loaf of bread for. You cannot get that valuable experience of being generous. You can't gain that experience of sacrificing for others if there's no others to sacrifice for. So, that being said, why wouldn't somebody volunteer for the fraction of a second Even though in this density it seems like it's going on forever, in the true scope of things, from the other side where you understand infinity, where you understand foreverness, why wouldn't you? Who wouldn't? What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing to be able to experience all of it. All of it. Have compassion. Let your heart break when you learn of these things. Have the compassion. That's what we're here for. But don't let it destroy you. At some level, maintain the understanding of the sacrificial nature of third density, so that these things, when you find them out, don't tear you apart.